Hi there, and thanks once again for tuning in to the Explaining History YouTube channel. I'm just going to talk very briefly about Dunkirk. A lot of people write to me with questions, essay questions, about whether Dunkirk can be evaluated as a triumph or a disaster, and it's a complicated one. We're going to firstly look at the events, and then look at how they've been interpreted. Firstly, between the last few days of May 1940 and the 4th of June 1940, some 300,000 Allied servicemen or thereabouts were evacuated from the beaches at Dunkirk. The British Navy, the Royal Navy, believed that 35,000 would be the number rescued, and the majority of the British Expeditionary Force would be taken prisoner or killed. The reason why the British had wound up in this situation is because the British and French had essentially fallen into a German trap. They'd been lured on a northward expedition into Belgium, while a southern German force came through the Ardennes forest, following a plan drawn up by the German General von Manstein called the Sickle Cut, or the Sickelschnitt. And when the Allies take the bait and go into Belgium, and the Belgian army crumbles, and the Belgian government sues for peace, it's only a matter of time really before they are cut off and forced back to the beaches. The first time the bid to force the British Expeditionary Force back to the coast had happened was in 1918, during the spring offensive of General Ludendorff. And you can look back through some of the videos I've done, and one a couple of videos ago on the Battle of Amiens has got plenty of information on that particular offensive. And during that time, the Royal Navy in England had planned, if necessary, to evacuate the British Expeditionary Force from the Channel ports. So there was a precedent for this kind of operation. Admiral Ramsay, who leads the men who leads the expedition to rescue the British Expeditionary Force, who takes the Royal Navy as well as small ships manned by volunteers to the beaches at Dunkirk, already had a kind of a template for a plan that had long been established. So the question, was it a catastrophe? Well, Winston Churchill, in the post-Dunkirk debate, the Fight Them on the Beaches speech, says, we cannot ascribe to this anything other than the title of a great military catastrophe. He says, wars are not won through evacuations, and we must be careful to see it as the disaster it is. So he believed it was a disaster. The military campaign against Germany had been executed by the French and the British fairly badly, and had left the British Expeditionary Force and, of course, a large number of French soldiers in an extremely vulnerable position. And there were over 100,000 French troops who were evacuated, along with the British, many of whom who returned to France to fight on. The campaign can also be seen as a catastrophe for the British regiments who essentially fight to the death to prevent the German Wehrmacht from getting to the beaches. At Calais, the Royal Green Jackets are destroyed, and the town largely levelled to prevent Dunkirk from being overrun. The operation itself is extremely successful. So if you're answering this question, the smart thing to do is to divide up the campaign, the series of battles that had led the British Expeditionary Force to the beaches, to divide that mentally from the actual evacuation operation itself. One had been a disaster and the other was an immense success. Hope that helps.